What do you like better, producing music or recording music?
I like doing producing. It depends on the mood.
Okay.
Because when you are writing and when you producing, it's just all a different nature.
Right.
I love it all though. I love it all to the 10th. Like, I love it so much, but I feel like I'm trying to think. That's a great question.
All right.
I love them both equally though.
Okay.
Times 10. I feel like the one thing that I love about them the most is that I may want to produce. In the mood, I may want to write, and in the mood, I may be ready to perform. You feel me? But it's like, yeah, it's kind of like on the mood, you know, like sometimes you may just listen to instrumentals or some jazz or some shit, and then sometimes you may listen to rap or rock type deal, you know, so it really be dependent on like the mood. But I love them both equally because it's like you could use them at any time, you feel me? Unlike kind of like, let's say, it's kind of like, I don't even know what to compare it to, but they both so beautiful at the same time.
No doubt. That reminds me too, I was gonna ask you a question later, but I'll just ask it now. Is there like a regiment that you have for your creative process? Or is it just strike like lightning, the creativity?
Strike like lightning. I feel like in the sense of kind of like whenever it kind of comes to mind and whatever I'm rocking with at that time, like, oh, I have this idea. Sometimes it's kind of like, it's just something that you do. And I say that in the sense of like, oh, I ain't made no music in a week, or I just need to touch on some music. I just need to hear some sounds, like, and maybe if I don't got no inspiration, it's like, you know, you still just touch on it to get the juices flowing.
Right.
But then other times it's like, oh shit, I wasn't even in the mood to make no music, and I just heard something in my head.
Right.
Let me go ahead and lay this down.
Right.
Or design, you know, be like, oh shit, I just remembered this other design that I came up with a long time ago. Let me go back and work on that. Or one design that I maybe already came up with, you know, something feed off that, you know?
Yeah.
So really it'd be, when you strike like lightning and you got the immediate feeling, it feel like no other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And other times though, when you just pushing it, it's kind of like practice and exercise kind of, you know what I'm saying?
That's what I want, the regimen, that's what I wondered.
Yeah, like even if you ain't in the mood sometimes, you just gotta do it. Even if you're not in the mood sometimes, beyond just gotta do it, you just gotta, you know, figure it out, learn some things, because then when you're trying to strike like lightning, you already didn't spend that time learning, you know, because when I got into it, a lot of the things I was already in love with. Listen to the share, it's great. Pulled me in a business store, bro. This is like, Yo, what's up, everybody? Happy to be here with LiNK TV. We about to link up.
The regiment style versus the like lightning style, like when it comes to like creative process.
Everything, you know, you need to balance it out, you know.
Right.
You got the practice, you got the, you know, trying to figure out, learn something, and you got the times when you got to execute whatever you're working on.
Right. And you feel like sometimes through like regiments, like you say, when you don't really want to do it, are you able to trap that same lightning in a bottle? And like, or?
Nah, sometimes you definitely hit it by accident, but sometimes you don't. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of like looking for, like when somebody's trying to, sometimes like they're anticipating looking for something. It's like thrifting. Right. Sometimes when you're like, yeah, I'm about to find that piece today. You like going hard searching. You do. And then sometimes when you just pass over, you be like, you be like whatever about it. Sometimes you don't come up with something, and then sometimes you find the craziest piece that you wasn't even looking for or paying attention to. So I say that in the sense of like, that's kind of like the balance of it all, and sometimes how it flows. Sometimes even when you're trying to strike and you're trying to get that perfect right or that perfect sound right, sometimes it takes some time to eventually end up getting it. But it is time to
Definitely, definitely. What do you feel like when you think about music and objects? What's that object that sticks out the most that you design? Whether it be an object or a composition of music, what's like your favorite, like your most connective memory?
I think it's really kind of hard to like pinpoint. It's hard to pinpoint a certain piece, but I think the most interesting pieces are the ones that have new compositions that haven't been done because you can't fully explain it. You know? So like the chain or like the pendant in general, the first thing that people say is, "What is that?" You know, and from to this day, I still get that. But in certain pieces of music that I create, I can't even recreate it, or it's hard for me to recreate it per se because of the composition. And I know that if somebody else hears it, they can recreate it. But a lot of people, if you hear music, you hear a lot of the same music because people are easily able to recreate it. And then, like, if you see a T-shirt, it's easily able to be recreated, and people understand what it is. But I think the most interesting one that really like align with what you're asking me, and my choice would be the pieces that have the most composition, from the music to some of the pieces that I created, such as chains. It's just like, what is that? You know what I'm saying? How did you get to that? People want to know, like, how did you come up with it and things like that? Because it's not normal to the ear or to the sight of what they're seeing or hearing. You feel me?
I do. And that's funny because that was like one of my next questions was, how important to you as an artist is it to innovate?
It's the most important thing.
Right.
But at the same time, like even when I sometimes bounce into things, like when I bounce into music, I feel like the biggest thing that I was trying to do is innovate, but not necessarily innovate, but be different. And so sometimes you kind of need to do the basic thing first and then lead into what you're gonna branch off of. But I feel like that's every artist. You know, you need to come out really basic and then see them evolve. You know?
Right.
And you know, but it's the most important thing because even being innovative sometimes isn't about groundbreaking records or anything, but it's about also separating yourself and just keeping yourself on quick feet, you know, because you just make yourself better, you make that art form better, and you just, you know, spice up your recipe a little bit, you know?
Definitely.
And also just push forward many boundaries and lanes, you know?
Right. No, I dig that. And I always see that whenever I observing you, whether it's from close or from far, that you have that mentality.
100%.
Definitely. And that really leads me to a similar realm of question. What does validation mean to you as an artist? What do you think of when you think of validation?
Validation? That's also a tricky thing.
Right.
It's kind of like, because, you know, everybody wants to be validated, even if it's about one person or by everybody. You know? Some people not being validated by one person kind of like ruins their lives. And sometimes they don't. And over time, I feel like being an artist, like where I want validation from comes from different areas. So I say that in the sense of like, I sometimes wanted some of my biggest inspirations to validate, and they didn't. So then I stopped caring. You know, like, you know, some people would be really upset. Some people will work hard for them to validate them. But, you know, it's really easy to just really let it go. You know, and then figure out where is the true validation supposed to come from. You know, is it supposed to come from your family, your friends, or, you know, the people that supported you and stuff like that. And I feel like that was the end all be all. You know, your supporters, you know, because a lot of people that may even jump on a bandwagon of giving you validation, it's not necessarily because of what you created, but because your supporters of you validation. They're like, oh, well, they say he's cool, so he is cool, you know. But I think by far, the people that belong to the ride, supporting, whether it's sharing, copying, in any way that they do support you, just by viewing or dropping a comment, and also, you know, being like, oh, this is dope, this isn't dope, or whatever, you know. Right. But
energy in general is validating.
Because I'm like, but definitely over time your validation changes. Sometimes it's going to get to a point where it's just like, it's just you.
Right.
You just thinking about yourself. You just over here like, okay, I'm doing this for myself. Sometimes this is for the people. Sometimes this is for, you know, everyone. Sometimes it may be, you know, targeted at a kind of sort of energy.
Yes.
Know? And it's sometimes, you know, every mission has different goals.
Absolutely.
But definitely for the support is for me, for myself. Like nobody else. I don't think that'll ever change for real.
I dig that. Yeah, when I'm hearing you and I'm taking it all in, and I'm thinking about the energy that people share with you, whether it be the people that you said that you didn't feel validated you, or the people that did. Either way, it's energy, and we use it for the good and for the best, no matter what. And that's fire, man. I can appreciate that. Tell us, like, when did you know that you wanted to be known as Kristopher Kites?
Like the designer, the name, or like, you know?
Yeah, both. Like, when did you know that was gonna be?
Well, my middle name is Kristopher.
Right.
It was really just kind of like, I've been called that my whole life. It's kind of weird being called by my first name when I first started going to schools and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. Why is y'all calling me by this name, you know?
Right.
But, you know, really, after different monikers and stuff like that, I don't know, Chris Kites, it just hit, you know? It didn't fly in. It just hit. And everything kind of along with it. And I just knew it because I just knew I was different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like, you know, around that time, I feel like in Chicago, it was a big resurgence of like, in 2013 rather, 2012, 2013, you know, a lot of drill started busting and everybody got nicknames and rap names. Even if somebody didn't do nothing per se, but they were important, quote unquote, they had a nickname or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And even just in the hood growing up, everybody had nicknames. But my nickname was just my middle name, you feel me?
Right.
But like I say that to say like, you know, the performer and stage names was just dope of the drill scene. And I'm like, in a sense, I kind of wanted my own, you know? Like I felt like I was dressing so fire. I felt like my creative thoughts went beyond even what I had done. And so I'm like, you know, I need a moniker, kind of, you know, or even not even necessarily a moniker, but who I truly am. You feel me? I feel like the name, to an extent that I was born with, yeah, that was that little boy. And now it's like, who is this fashion man, or I mean, artist or designer, creative, all of these things. Like, who is this human person / character?
Right.
And that's just right.
Right. He's multifaceted.
Most definitely.
Definitely. And I was gonna ask you, so tell us a little bit about the origin of I Fake Make Clothes.
Well, the origin of it was like, it was I fake make clothes because I fake make clothes. You know, like the sense was, I would tell everybody I fake make clothes because I make everything. So it wasn't to put me in the boxes around anything. And I also just always had a hard time with a brand name, but I also didn't want to put a brand because I felt like so many people really like slutted out streetwear. Like they would just brand name, put it on the shirt. And it ain't the fact that ain't fire, it's the fact that I didn't want to do it, you know? And so it was like, let's see how far I make it without ever having a logo and making different designs, and we're actually talking about design. You know, I'm not selling you a dream, I'm not selling you marketing, I'm selling you this actual design, you know? And sometimes it's kind of like, you know, but now like even like with Kites, you know, that's is what Kites is going into now, from my fake clothes to Kites and such. Is going to be like, you know, the traditional streetwear brand with definitely a bunch of spices and twists on it. But that's where it kind of came from. I was sewing, you know, making the chains, and I always knew I wanted to make music. And then I was selling clothes to dressing nice all amongst it. And I felt like it was still different from what a lot of people, I was different from what a lot of people, other people were doing, you know?
Right.
Because a lot of people that sometimes make clothes can't dress nice. Or sometimes a lot of people that make clothes can't dress nice and don't even wear their own clothes because sometimes those clothes not nice. A lot of times they don't even venture into music, or they don't really have I'm not gonna necessarily say talent for it, but like, you know, sometimes I just kind of knew what was in me and I didn't want to put myself in a box. And even in Chicago, you know, like, yeah, I fake do this, I fake do that,
Yeah.
I fake want to go, I'm fake hungry.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, I do, but I also, you know, it like opens up the space for more.
It does. It leaves it open-ended.
100%.
That's dope, man. How do you feel like the transition, I know you touched on it, but how do you feel like the transition from I Fake Make Clothes to Kites Ice is going to happen? Like what does that transition look like?
I mean, the transition is really gonna be really hitting with this first collection. So we're gonna be dropping like a bunch of clothes and stuff, and a bunch of different other accessories, amongst jewelry and clothing accessories this year. And I feel like this is like gonna take off. You know,
Right.
I feel like sometimes like a certain polish over, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and you know everybody, you know, steps or it's a ramp, you know,
Right.
and so. You know, and so I feel like, you know, we just gonna take the rocket ship, and just go crazy with dropping, and you know, with making them move to New York. You know, going back to the base where you know people rock with me the most, and they see the vision the most, and they also tell the world what it is. You know, like the rest of the world don't know what's cool until New York tells them what's cool.
Yeah.
And New York will let you know what's up, what you like, what you trash,
Right.
what you cool, what you not, all of that. And
Right.
then when they support, they really do show love because they really do know what art is.
They
It don't
do.
matter about a lot of things for them to fall in love with it.
That's true, because it's a very authentic city,
Very much.
just like ours. And that leads me to another question that I have for you, which was coming from Chicago, being from Chicago, moving to LA for a period of time, and now going to New York. How does the environment inspire you or affect your creativity?
The environment inspires and affects. You know, if you're in somewhere where you're not really rocking with the people, you're not rocking with the layout of the city. You know, some people like to walk around a lot. Some people like Chicago don't got no hills and mountains.
Right.
But like, you know, California got a bunch of hills and mountains, but you know, New Jersey and even some parts of New York do.
Right.
But and driving wise, you know, when you're born into a place and you see so many things for so long, you become accustomed to it, and you think not necessarily that is the best, but this is all that it is. So in a sense, it is the best, and then this is what you deal with for the rest of life. But then when you move and you travel, if you're traveling for a vacation, you feeling it for a few days, you know. And a lot of my work takes me places for extended periods of time, but not forever, you know. But those environments radioactively changes how you feeling. You know,
Right.
like, oh, I never want to leave this place. Oh, I'll come. And now you're going back home. Oh, I have so many great ideas, you know. And sometimes staying in those places too long ain't lit. It is not good unless you rocking with the place, you know. And Cali I love California, but like New York, we talk about the culture and people, you know. Sometimes, you know, you talk about like nature, and then you talk about like culture,
Right.
you talk about like people.
Right.
And LA has many different cultures. It definitely has a ton of nature, and it has many different types of people, you know.
Mhm.
But also, like, depending on what you're diving into, where's the capital of that at, kind of. And then even aside from the capital, like, where is it at that it's actually about the art form? Because sometimes where you may be at, it could be about the art form, or it could be about the money, or it could just be about certain things, and that all applies to the environment, you know.
Right.
And I think like East Coast is definitely like kind of like where I gravitate to more
Yeah.
a bit. You know, everything is really closer knit in the sense of where you need to get things done,
Right.
where you need to go, running into people and things like that. But you know, I love it all in the sense. I love it all. But
Definitely.
I think by far, environment, that was a long ass answer because that was a really great question.
Thank you.
And I got like 10 different things to say about it. But to leave it short to say, you know, you take a trip to Japan up there, you leave with just the craziest feelings of euphoria.
Right.
And, you know, and that just radioactively changes your work. And it affects it. And it just sprouts so many great and beautiful ideas because it's something so different. And, you know, you find out those places, because each place is for somebody at some point in their life too. Sometimes it may not be forever, and sometimes it may be forever. But you found out those certain points, and then you just gotta go with it.
Right. And I love that the fact that you said you had like 10 different ideas that sprouted from that question, because that's actually one of the most important questions that I felt like I had for you today. And even springboarding off of that question and kind of going back into it a bit, because I feel like there's still something to say. You mentioned Japan, you mentioned Europe. How have other countries and cultures like influenced you as a person, as a designer, you know, as a human?
Really, it is definitely no secret
Yeah.
that like Japanese creatives have huge effect on my life as much as probably my dad has, honestly, like truly.
Right.
Like you talk about like, and also all American creatives. creative too. I said it in a sense when, like, you know, when I grew up, my dad was, you know, I inherited my dad's comic book collection. We would go buy comics as a kid and things like that. And this is before like Marvel movies is like busting and stuff, you know, buying comic books. And manga and anime started snowing in America very easily around that time of me growing up and stuff like that. And seeing all of those creations also through the character designs of all of these characters, American and Japanese for their shows, and then seeing the way that they design, you know, even seeing like the inspiration that Japan has with America from America's workwear or America's army gear, and even their workwear and army gear, the ways that they sprouted. And I think like also for somebody like me too, it's like when I get into something, I get into something like tenfold.
Right.
And the same with a lot of folks in Japan, they do the exact same thing. When they get into something, they go into it tenfold.
Yeah.
You know, cutting corners, like they really get into it. And I think it's so dope too, like going over there and seeing the different culture, but you know, also seeing how much they love American culture.
They do.
You know, like they don't, like, of course they rock with other people's cultures too, but they love American culture. And me loving their culture is kind of like, it's kind of like a puzzle piece. It's matching right up together, you know?
Truly.
It's very cool.
It is. And it's beautiful that I feel like, and I'm sure you feel the same, that your designs connect with a lot of different walks of life, right? You know, all different.
110%.
You know what I mean?
Every walk of life.
Every walk of life. And how do you feel like how do you feel that nostalgia is it like a fuel for you? Like, do you feed off of the nostalgia from your past? Like you talked about your dad, the comic books that he put you on. And like, I think about, you know, your designs and the way they connect to all these different walks of life. Like, where did that stem from? Like, was your dad in the comic books? Was it just like life in general as it went along? Like, how did that nostalgia?
Everybody says it's like a village to raise a kid.
Right.
And I think it takes a village to raise an idea. And everything that makes a person also makes an idea, and it's kind of made the same way. So if you got like 20,000 ideas, I mean not 20,000 ideas, if you got 20 ideas or 20 core things of like your 20 core hobbies, or even if you play like hypothetically like whatever sports and activities that you are in after school and outside of school, and then add in school, all of these different things like kind of like make up who you are over time and stuff, you know, and the habits that you may pick up from it all, or the lessons that you taught from it all. And the same thing kind of happens with that idea.
Right.
Sprouting that idea is like, oh, okay, I love these colors because these colors kind of come from blank, you know, the rainbow, or it comes from my favorite building. It's the certain shade of gray that's in downtown Chicago or whatever, you know.
Right.
And this has these types of lines because it's inspired by this architect or this certain frame of architecture in the certain region of America or Europe or wherever, you know.
Right.
And these are just inspirations, and that's just talking about the lines and the colors of something. That still doesn't go into the construction. That still doesn't maybe go into the marketing or the final product and fully how it looks. But, you know, sampling is kind of like it's kind of a part of that nostalgia, but I think like overall in life in general, it's kind of like all the ideas that really made up me, and I put it into a product.
Right.
And so that village that raised me was that village that also put into that idea too, and all the other things that I got into.
Right.
Outside of the village and stuff, you know.
And you've cultivated your own village. You know, I feel, you know, with people that are immersed in your products.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I feel like many different villages. And that's another thing too, you know, seeing people, like there's certain people that I've never met in my life. And sometimes as soon as I find out about them or I learn about them, I'll be like, yo, it's dope. And then they be like, yo, yeah, you inspired me to make this brand and stuff like that. And that's crazy to me because I'm not old at all. You know, I've only been designing for 5 years, and that still is way longer than a lot of people. And that's still even crazy to say. But to see people who started their brands instantly off of me is crazy because I wasn't inspired by a lot of young folks. That's why I wasn't inspired by a lot of folks. And that's why I started a brand, because I felt like it was so much trash out there that I could make better. And that's what I started to do. And so then, you know, coming up, seeing a lot of people, young people, say like, oh, yo, I started doing this because of you, you know? Like, it's something that's so serious and something that's so professional. I feel like in a sense, you know, it's just, You know, like when an NBA player usually say, like, I started playing the NBA because it's this person has been playing 20 years with all of these accolades, you know, and they go on for a long time. And so in fashion, when people say it, sometimes a shorter time span, but that's crazy, you know, like that's crazy. And it's dope, you know, and even going into music, it's like, it's certain people who inspired me because even though they had just started out, or even though I had just noticed them in a sense of when they were starting out and stuff, you know, but very beautiful.
It is. And you've been able to fill that void with your own creative energy, you know, you self-sustained.
Yeah.
And that's dope. You didn't have to go and like look at this person as a benchmark or that person. You said, this is missing and I'm gonna fill it. And I respect that, man. That's dope. I've always admired that about your work.
I definitely appreciate it.
Definitely, bro. Definitely. Definitely, man. That last drop was beautiful too.
Bro, I can't wait till you get your pieces, bro.
Man, I can't wait.
It's gonna be crazy, and you're gonna have some nice in it. You're gonna have some nice added pieces. And everything that we got coming up next, I'm dummy excited about. Everything that we got coming up next, I'm dummy excited.
That's love. Me too, bro.
Like, I'm very excited. I'm like, the only thing, like, you know, I'm excited about it because it's like, it's kind of like, it's for me at the same time. Because the first thing I made was clothes.
Right.
And I can make clothes better than anybody, you know?
Right.
But it's still so much that I'm like relearning, kind of like getting back into it all. But I'm very excited for it, for people to see. I'm very excited. People to be happy with the products that come out. And also for the future too.
Definitely.
Like the future is going to be also so very beautiful.
That was my last question, actually. What is the future of Kites Ice?
It's going to be one of the best streetwear clothing brands ever. Like ever. You know, it's been so many times that I'm like trying to figure out like, oh, what should I do? What should I line? And really, it's really like chipping away at a huge rock. I mean, you know, the boulder or, you know, or block to make that crystal clear, beautiful statue. You know, like it's no quick way to do it. It's no way, and even when they, you know, chipping away at that rock to make that statue, it's like, which rock do I do next? I mean, which part do I chip off next? You know, and then if I make a mistake, how do I correct it? You know, all of these different things, and I say that to say like, that's how it is with building a brand and reinventing a brand and figuring out what is that next step.
Right.
But it is so much next coming with Kites Ice. So many beautiful things coming next with Kites Ice.
Yeah.
From clothes, accessories, and just building upon that. You know, like even once I do something with that, like I'm already ready kind of for the next almost, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's really exciting because it's just like, you know, they all my babies. And I'm also excited to get back into music once kind of the clothes get not necessarily under control, start dropping this shit. Now it's time for this next piece or time for whatever else may be kind of like in line with what, you know, I'm trying to do with it.
Definitely. I feel that. And one thing I have to ask every guest, you guys, I'm just feel fortunate and blessed to be in the company of such interesting people. And I feel like I would like to know, who are you inspired by? Who would you like to see on an episode of Let's LiNK TV? Who would you like to sit down and watch?
That's a great question. What I like to see? What? Bruh, there's so many people, honestly. Like, it's hard to say in a sense, because look, it's like I got two answers to it, you know?
Yeah, please.
I'm like thinking about like Chicago people.
Right.
And then I'm thinking about people who, you know, who I'm like crazily inspired by. Like I'm crazily inspired by Andre 3000. Of course I would love to see him on Let's LiNK, you know? But then I'm also thinking like, what's like kind of like a Chicago creative that I'm inspired by that would really be wanting to pull up and stuff, you know? And it's so many people, but like when you talk about like kind of like the village, and when I was first starting out, even like people to geek out with about certain like things within streetwear and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's so many. It's not so many necessarily actually.
Right.
It's not so many people that I do feel, but it is so many people at the same time. But I would honestly say like when I was coming up, geeking out and everything, probably a mirror. A mirror. Like
you know, like her, I can't think of the word, not memory, education on fashion and stuff.
Yeah.
It's really dope and things like that. And I think that'd be dope probably.
She'd be flattered.
Yeah.
She really would be flattered by that.
Like, yeah, I think she would be definitely a great person that I would like to see. You know
Dope.
what I'm saying?
I love that, man.
Because, like when it comes to fashion topics and just talking, like, you gotta know.
Shout out Amira, giving Amira her flowers. That's dope, man. You know what I want to ask you too that I didn't get a chance to ask you? How did you feel about Akira Toriyama's passing? Like, and when I got that chain, I couldn't believe that it was still on the website. I couldn't believe it.
To be honest, bro, I ain't even gonna hold you. It'd be weird. That'd be weird to me.
Right.
Like, I know so many people that done died in real life.
Right.
It'd be weird. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like people in Chicago, like, when I go other places and talk to people or really get to know people, they don't be knowing as many people that have died as much as I have, let alone people my age or people older and things like that. You know, I'm used to my heroes really dying at 50. You feel me? And it's sad to say, but it just is what it is. And so, you know, as much as it'd be a shocker and it'd be like, damn, another one, it'd be kind of like, it'd just be crazy, you know, because sometimes it's from the effects of what, you know, occupations we may take on or what dreams we want to reach to an extent. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I think it's just like surreal to say a sense. And I don't know, like when folks be dying though, I just be like, damn, you feel me? But like, I'm not gonna say I'm desensitized to it totally because I understand, but I do feel like it kind of is slightly desensitized in a sense.
Right.
Because it's like, damn, but of course it'd be like, damn, it hurt. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it'd just be like, you know, certain, like another person that I would love to thank in person for what they have inspired the world to do and things like that. Like, who wouldn't have wanted to meet and so many people who have inspired them, or people in life that you maybe haven't reconnected with in a long time, but you would want to later, but then they gone, you know?
Right.
It definitely sucks. And it definitely it's a very interesting thing that I'm still even trying to figure out the right words to and things of that nature. But the only thing I can do is keep going crazy to meet all of my heroes. Yeah. And yeah, that's that.
This is another question I wanted to ask you since we're here talking about your relationship with your pop. Because I feel like, you know what I'm saying, he's like, you talk about heroes, like we just touched on heroes. Yeah. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, no, he's definitely probably one of the biggest heroes by far. Definitely the biggest hero that got me to who I am. You know, it has definitely been a roller coaster of a relationship as much as it is with everybody. You know, like the hammer coming down on certain things, but every lesson that he instilled upon me, even if I cried because of it as a kid, it led to me doing what I wanted to do. Like, you know, one thing that he wouldn't let me do is quit on anything. If I didn't like it to an extent, you know, like when I played baseball, like I sucked the first season, so I didn't want to play no more. He was just like, nah, you're gonna go again, and you're gonna keep practicing. And by that next season, I was easily top 3 players on the team, and I loved it because I put in that time. And he would take out that time to go play catch, go to the batting cages, you know what I'm saying, do as best as he could coach me because we couldn't pay for coaches or anything. And when, even like, you know, when I did boxing, like boxing is, you know, it was many things that taught me that, but like, you know, like I didn't want to punch nobody and I didn't want to get into that and stuff like that, but he made me keep going, you know, and it's not no like safety thing at risk or like really like verbally hurting me, like nothing, no abuse at all. Just like, you know, when you get into something, you finish it, and even once you do quit, you learn that this is actually not what you want to do. Not because you're not good at it, but because you're good at it and it's not making you happy, and you just on to the next step, you know. But at anything, because you're not good at it, you know, you probably ain't gonna have fun at nothing if you ain't good at it, you know. And that I get into is just like little lessons like that. That's just a little bit of what it is, but like little lessons like that. But you know, any program that he's put me in, any food for thought that he's ever given me, always, even as a kid, you know, a lot of the lessons that he's given me from me being born to me being 18, I carry those lessons and apply those to a lot of things in everyday life now that take me galaxies, honestly.
Galaxies.
Away, you know.
Yes.
But, very, very beautiful human being.
Yeah.
You know, glad to have taken him around the world with me.
Right.
Different places and such, and glad to have had him by my side a large part of the way and whatnot.
That's really dope. I always admired how you kept them close. Like even when I run into you, whether it was at your event at Jordan, you know, a few years back, I've seen them there. You're right. Or whether it be in Tokyo, you know, or wherever. You know, I always saw you guys together. You know, and that was so honorable and admirable.
So beautiful.
And beautiful.
Very much so.
Man.
I really appreciate you asking that.
No doubt, man.
It's a great link up.
Love, man. One more. Love, man. Appreciate it, G. Thanks.
That was a great way to end it right there.